Out of order loss is the kind of loss that doesn't follow life's expected timeline, like losing a sibling before their life really begins, or losing a partner before you actually get to create a life together. I'm Ella, and that's exactly my reality. I lost my brother Mac and my boyfriend in heaven, Sam, in a car crash at the hands of a drunk driver when I was 22. I've been learning how to live with missing them ever since. Out of Order with Ella isn't just a grief podcast. It's a space where loss, trauma, and healing can exist in everyday conversation without stopping it. Grief is in everything I do, but it's not all that I am. Each episode here is part life update, part reflection, part, yeah, I know that feeling too. I hope that it can feel like both a good catch up phone call or FaceTime with a friend and a good therapy session all in one, because there's no grief without light and love first. So, whether you're grieving someone out of order or just want to be part of a community where the hard topics are as welcome as the light ones, thanks for being here. Well, hello and happy Monday. Because I need it, we're going to start off today's episode with some deep breathing. So do not hit the little skip 15 seconds forward button. And I hope that I didn't just introduce that to you, because I do that sometimes on podcasts, but we're not doing that right now. We are going to do some deep breathing together because I just need it, okay? And this is my podcast. So we'll start with breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and breathing out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now go and hit the back 15-second little button. I actually don't know if that is only a Spotify thing. I would assume it's on all podcast platforms. And also, let me know. I suppose you wouldn't really be hearing this if you're listening on a different platform other than the ones that this show is on, but I currently have figured out how to publish this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And so if you use something that is other than those four and you really, really want this show, because there are so many of you out there, but if you really want this show to be on something else, just let me know, and maybe I can make it happen. But I'm not really a technology wizard over here. It's kind of funny enough, the things that I do and the little setup that I have. Okay, but anyway, thank you for deep breathing with me, and I hope you repeated that back a few times if you needed it. Thank you. Okay. This past week felt like 2 or 3 weeks all in one because of all of the different emotions and just things that I did. So, lots of things happened. I'm gonna just kind of focus on group and the anniversaries that happened this week, and then we can just dive into other stuff at a different time. So, we'll start with talking about group. So, I'm in a young adult support group for young adults who have lost a parent, a sibling, or anyone out of order. And I've been going to groups since the 6th-month death anniversary of Mack and Sam. And I'm realizing how weird it is that I remember the first group that I went to so clearly and the exact day, because that's over 3.5 years ago that my gosh, it's just like, I cannot even believe I'm having a little bit of like an actual mind blown moment of just the amount of time that's passed. Anyway, I don't think I ever would have considered going to a support group if it weren't for my grief counselor. I'd been doing weekly individual sessions at the grief club pretty soon after the boys died, and my counselor had suggested that I go to the group that she leads. And I had 0 clue what to expect, given I had never been to a support group before. And I had only really ever seen a support group as they are portrayed on, like, TV shows and movies, where it's like a group sitting in chairs, like, really uncomfortable chairs in a circle in a dark church basement. I'm specifically envisioning in The Fault in Our Stars when Hazel and what is his name? Augustus? Something like that. When they meet in the support group for young people with cancer, and that's exactly like what it was in this basement, and it's dark. For some reason, it always has to be dark. But, I mean, I didn't actually think it was going to be like that, but still, I just had no idea what actually goes on because most 22-year-olds have not been to a support group before. But she recommended it to me, and so I was like, "Okay, I'll go." Um, and something I think about a lot is how I viewed grief and sudden loss before it ever happened to me. Like, I just think back to before I lost Mack and Sam, just like what if I ever had really thought about grief and loss. And I just struggle with remembering things in general, but it's so bad that I don't have any like thoughts about it because people in my life absolutely lost people so out of order and tragically. And how did I not know anything about their healing journey? So, just a little reflection piece there. But I think I had this idea that grief counseling and support groups were this super intense and meticulously planned special type of therapy, and I just couldn't have been further from the truth. I do think that doing individual counseling or attending a support group that's led by mental health professionals that specialize in grief and trauma really is essential because these are really sensitive topics. But I think that what actually goes down in these sessions is a lot less complex than what people probably think. The essence of all of grief work that I have found is it's literally working through the thoughts and the emotions that are in your head. It's simply sharing what life feels like right now and speaking out loud what's weighing on your heart, and then identifying why and how to keep going day by day. The group that I belong to is so incredibly special. It's not in a dark church basement. It's actually in a cozy meeting room with comfortable couches and chairs, and it overlooks nature. And it's always stocked with a lot of snacks, which I love. And each session is different, but usually there's always some tears, but there's definitely always a ton of laughs. And there have been times where I don't even know if the word grief is spoken just because existing in a room of people who understand is healing in itself. There's something that's so freeing about just existing in a room with people who understand what you're feeling and thinking without having to try to find the words to explain a single thing. Everyone's grief and response to grief looks a little bit different. But I know I've said this before, but there really are so many universal aspects of grief, and it just never ceases to amaze me. Ironically, the group that I had this week was full of, just a lot of young people who had lost a sibling, but typically, there's all types of different losses with different causes of death and ages at which they were lost and ages at which the person lost them. It is just truly amazing how the details do not matter in regards to being able to relate to one another. However, it's just so humbling to learn from each other all of the different layers of pain that come with all the different ways that you can lose someone. I learned so much about how I can be a better person with every meeting I go to. And I want to start sharing just some of the general concepts that we talk about. No specifics, but especially the things that fall under the category of things that we just wish that other people understood. So, the kind of overarching topic that I just wanted to talk about after this week's meeting is how common it is, especially for younger people, to be so flippant with their language. And I hear from people who haven't had something extremely traumatic happen to them, things like, oh, come on, it's just a joke, or words don't matter. But I think words hold so much weight, and I have to remind myself of this because I'm not perfect in the words that I use. None of us are. You often just have no idea the weight your words hold to the people around you. I think it's silly to think that just because a word doesn't hold a lot of weight or emotion to you means that you have the authority to just say those words so casually. Like, your lack of vocabulary and ease of conversation should not come at the expense of causing emotional harm in the people around you. One of the types of losses that many people use in jokes and just everyday conversation and analogies is suicide loss. And I don't need to give examples of the way in which people so lightly use topics of suicide in casual conversation. I just want to talk about an alternative that I was introduced to in group for a word that you might not realize how often you're using. We have so many other ways to communicate and to make light of things without using language that can harm someone around us, not just in one conversation, but for weeks or even months to come after. And the people who have experienced this type of loss should not have to be the ones to speak out against the poor language choices. So that's why we're talking about it together this week, because obviously this is not the type of loss that I have experienced, but it's a type of loss that a lot of people have. So I try to call things out if I hear them and say things like, hey, we just don't need to use that word. We don't need to make that kind of joke. There's other ways we can communicate what I know you're trying to say, especially when I know the person meant no harm. I don't vocalize those thoughts to be sensitive, but just to display that words matter and to offer alternatives that we can use to show basic respect to the people around us because we don't need to be using harmful language just for our ease of routine and comfort. So, with all that, this week in group, I was sharing about my hospital medicine rotation in PA school and how being in the ICU was a very, quote, triggering, unquote, environment for me because Mac died in the ICU. And my grief counselor, who leads this group, knows that I hold so much weight in the words and the language that I use. She's been such a mentor to me, especially with me going to school to be a PA. I've learned so much from her on how to approach really challenging and really sensitive conversations. And so she just knows how important it is to me, which is why she offered this information to me specifically. But she shared in the mental health world that we're trying to replace the word triggered with activated because of the association that the former can have with suicide. And I had never heard that before, and I was so grateful because one, what an easy fix, and two, I feel like the term activated describes the feeling of something reminding you of grief or trauma so much better than the word triggered. We're not going to be perfect, and that's never the expectation, but it just takes someone hearing one time, "Hey, I know you didn't mean any harm by that, but I think replacing that word with this or using a different analogy could save a lot of potential harm in the people around you." I just think, why wouldn't I use a word that not only decreases harm, but also just describes what I'm feeling way better? Okay, moving on. A lot of grief chatter this week because I had group this week, and two, it was a really heavy week with the 4th year anniversary. And there were a few times throughout the week that I just spoke to my phone and did the talk to text thing on Google Docs, just yapping about whatever I was feeling right in the moment. And I figured I would just share those thoughts. It's the morning of the 24th, the 4th anniversary of Sam's death, and I just feel numb. Quick side note in case the dates are confusing, because the same car crash killed Mack and Sam. So, just a clarifying point, Sam died on impact. Mack died several hours later in the morning of the 25th in the ICU. Okay, back to the monologue. I'm driving to work in silence, too tired to listen to a podcast. In the future, I'm just going to take these days off of work to allow my body to do whatever it needs that day, whether it's sleep or cry or be busy or whatever feels right. But this year, I thought I would try to go to work rotation for school. I didn't sleep enough and woke up just drained. Even if your mind does go on autopilot and you, for some reason, don't mentally recognize the date, your body knows. And hopefully, some people might check in on you, in turn, reminding you, which is good because it feels good to know that other people remember them too. Your family is also going through the same day. Right now, I don't know what I'm going to feel good enough to do for the rest of the day after work. But at this moment, all I want to do is lay in bed and go back to sleep. Today, I can't help but think about the day that they died, which might sound like duh, it's the anniversary, but honestly, I really try not to think about that day. And I really try not to anticipate emotions before a what could be hard day has the opportunity to arrive. But I suppose that it is inevitable to reflect on the day when it arrives. I'm never going to discuss the details of that day, in part because the details of how they died is the least interesting parts about these boys, and they don't want to be remembered for that day. They want to be remembered for how they lived. Signs feel good. They really do. I think I remember seeing Mack trucks on my way there, which I didn't say in this, but I think that's why I said that. They do provide hope that the boys are out there and waiting for us somewhere, but it doesn't change anything about the pain. It actually brings a lot of pain with the hope, knowing that they have some connection to this world and maybe get a glimpse of the pain that we're experiencing. I know that they're both immensely proud of me continuing on after experiencing what felt like I died too that day. There's so much strength and bravery for continuing on with life. I know that they're happy about that because, of course, they don't want to feel like their death stopped everything else that God has in store for us in life. But I know that they also get it because I know that they love us just as much as we love them. To be honest, on these days, my brain can feel so foggy that I'm not really registering what other people are saying to me. I imagine that for people around me, it can feel really uncomfortable if they know the significance of that day to me. Trying to find the right words to say, but just know that you don't need to say or do the perfect thing at all. I personally don't have any expectations other than I just want to get through that day. The best thing that you can do is to acknowledge Mac and Sam and to just make the day a little bit lighter if you can. If you're a coworker, do what you can to help the day go a little smoother. If you're a friend, just make your presence known. If you're family, know that other people in your family are right there with you in their own way, and everyone is always going to be on a different page on different days, but everyone is going to be missing them. Then the next day, today is 4 years since Mac died. When I start thinking about all that has happened in 4 years, it feels so scary. I used to be able to separate every moment that was before and after really well, but it all feels more fuzzy now. However, I remember the feeling of the before and how different it is than the after. I'm driving to work and just left going to church with my dad. It's hazy in the same exact way that it was hazy the morning Mac died. He died in the ICU at 5:30 something in the morning. We probably got home at 7 a.m. We got home, and what do you do when you get home after your brother died? After your boyfriend died just the night before? All I remember is walking in the house, walking up the stairs, and I just went to Mac's room. I crawled in his bed, and I turned on the TV, and I turned on New Girl. Like, how weird is that? It's one of the only moments I remember in the immediate after so clearly. I hadn't slept in about 2 days because the night before they died, I had an overnight shift with my emergency medicine research internship. So I figured I probably could sleep. Like, what else would I do? But just how weird to think I just turned on New Girl the same way I always would so I could fall asleep. And after that, I don't really remember. I don't remember the days following. I remember people we love coming over, but not necessarily the specifics of a lot of days. I think each day I felt the same. I would sleep until I couldn't sleep any longer, lay in bed until someone came to check on me. I had to get up, usually because someone was at the house, and I don't want that to sound ungrateful because I truly wanted everyone to know that came to visit us how much it meant to me that they drove or even flew all the way to our house to support us and just be present in that moment. But really, I just wanted to lay in bed. I just didn't know what to do because what do you do? I still have no idea, truly. There were lots of feelings and emotions in those first days and weeks that we can explore another time, but I just wanted to share those pieces of reflection of the day that they died. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, just reliving exactly what happened on the day of the death anniversary. I would really appreciate hearing from you guys about how you tackle the death anniversary, because this was the fourth one, and I mean, I just want to get through the day. It's so hard to even think about having like a um, tradition that I do on that day because it just sucks. My mom had a really good perspective that why should that day hold any more weight than other days? Because it really doesn't. There are no good memories from that day, like other painful days, at least hold positive memories like birthdays and holidays. The one good thing that does come from that day is when people remember Mac and they remember Sam and share photos and memories. And it feels good to know that we're not the only ones hurting and missing them. Okay, after a really heavy week, let's just wrap up there. Next week, I have a ton of lighter topics to talk about, including the fact that today is the start of my last week of clinical year. Like, what? I was so emo going into work this morning and looking back on everything that I've done over the past 2 and something years. So, we'll chat more about that next week. But last but not least, we have our special person of the week. So this week, Marin submitted some of her love and stories of her brother Nolan. So thank you, Marin, and we will get into sharing your words. My big brother passed away a year ago, July 27th, 2024, from a fentanyl overdose. Nolan struggled with addiction and mental health for most of his life. My big brother had such a beautiful heart and the best laugh ever. He cared so much about people. He helped so many people with their sobriety and continues to help people today with his story. I believe there needs to be more awareness and help about addiction and mental health. My brother did not choose to be an addict. This is a quote from an article that means a lot to me. Quote, I know that God put his hand out and said, come with me, you've had enough, my dear boy. Quote, and so he went, where there are beautiful skies and comforting words. I miss him more than anything in this world, but I would never want to see him suffer like that again. He finally has the peace he deserved. Thank you so much, Marin, for sharing about your brother Nolan. I do not take it lightly at all, and I'm just so grateful that you decided to share about his struggles in hopes that it raises awareness. And I'm just really grateful to know pieces of him through you. And with that, thank you so much for spending this time with me this week. If you want more support, more information, you can check Out of Order with Ella on Instagram. Reminder, I would love to share about the special person that you lost and the love that you have for them. The link to do this, along with a general question link to ask anything about life, grief, loss, trauma, is in the show notes and linked on the show's Instagram. Remember, I'm here, I care, and I'm on your team. And I mean that so wholeheartedly. Thank you so much for listening again. Talk to you next Monday. Bye.